1:18:33.
Aho, aho,
Just look at it.
let's look at Adharmaha,
Adharmaha,
irreligion,
irreligion,
Palanam,
Palanam,
of the rulers,
of the rulers,
Pivanam,
Vivinam,
of one who is brought up,
of one who is brought up,
Balibhujam,
Balibhujam,
like the crows,
like the crows,
Eva,
like
Swamini,
Swamini,
unto the master,
unto the master,
where to go? Agam,
Agam,
sin,
sin,
yet
what
is dasanam,
dasanam,
of the servants,
the servant,
Dvarapanam,
Vadapanam,
keeping watch at the door,
keeping watch at the door,
Sunam,
Sunam,
of the dogs,
of the dog,
Eva,
like
The Brahman's son Šringi said, "Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants." Please repeat. The Brahman's son Šringi said,
the Brahman's son Šringi said,
"Oh, just look
look
at the sins of the rulers
at the rulers,
who, like crows and watchdogs at the door,
who like crows and watchdogs at the door,
perpetrate sins against their masters,
perpetrate sins against their masters,
contrary to the principles governing servants."
contrary to the principles governing servants.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmins are considered to be the head and brains of the social body, and the Kshatriyas are considered to be the arms of the social body. The arms are required to protect the body from all harm. But the arms must act according to the directions of the head and brain. That is a natural arrangement made by the Supreme Order, for it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that 4 social orders or castes, namely the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras, are set up according to quality and work done by them. Naturally, the son of a Brahmin has a good chance to become a Brahmin by the direction of his qualified father. As the son of a medical practitioner, has a very good chance to become a qualified medical practitioner. So the caste system is quite scientific. The son must take advantage of the father's qualification and thus become a Brahmin or medical practitioner and not otherwise. Without being qualified, one cannot become a Brahmin or medical practitioner. And that is the verdict of all scriptures and social orders. Herein Šringi, a qualified son of a great Brahmin, attained the required Brahminical power both by birth and by training. But he was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy. By the influence of Kali, the son of a Brahmin became puffed up with Brahminical power and thus wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to cows, crows, and watchdogs. The king is certainly the watchdog of the state in the sense that he keeps vigilant eyes over the border of the state for its protection and defense. But to address him as a watchdog is a sign of a less cultured boy. Thus, the downfall of the Brahminical powers began as they gave importance to birthright without culture. The downfall of the Brahmin caste began in the age of Kali. And sincere Brahmins are the heads of the social orders. And since sincere Brahmins are the heads of the social orders, all other orders of society also begin to deteriorate. This beginning of Brahminical deterioration was highly deplored by the father of Šringi, as we will find. Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Sudalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Sadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. This text in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's purport, has some very valuable lessons for us. Maharaj Parikshit was the ruler of the world, and he wanted to establish a place where everyone was Krishna conscious. We can compare it in this sense to ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada wanted a society, the purpose of which is not to make buildings and make rules, but to establish a place where people can come and hear about Krishna and chant Hare Krishna and hear something about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there was a problem. Šringi, he criticized Maharaj Pariksit. And in this verse in purport today, he's calling him a crow and a watchdog. And Prabhupada says in the purport here that he wrongly compared Maharaj Pariksit to cows and watchdogs. And he says to address him as a watchdog is a sign of a less cultured boy. Thus the downfall of the Brahminical powers began as they gave importance to birthright without culture. So the point here, the problem here is that Šringi is criticizing Maharaj Pariksit, and thereby he's doing some violence. He's not behaving like a proper Brahman. A Brahman is someone who doesn't criticize others. This is described in the Udyoga Parva, chapter 45, text 8 of the Mahabharata. Sadva sadva paradido brahmanasya nahashyate nadaka pratisastarte vera ve sujya evam kurvate janaha. True or false, whether it's correct what they're saying or whether it's incorrect. Speaking ill of other people is not proper for a Brahmin. Šringi should not have done this. This is what Prabhupada is saying. In the Mahabharata it says that whether it's true or whether it's not true, if someone wants to be a Brahmin, and that automatically means a Vaishnava, because a Vaishnava is more than a Brahmin. If you want to be a Vaishnava, speaking ill of others, whether it's true or not true, is not proper for a Brahmin. And he says that people who do this have hell for their abode. They're already living in hell, in other words. So it'll change this wonderful Krishna conscious government which Maharaj Pariksit had. It will destroy that. And instead of being a Krishna conscious state, it'll become like hell. So it's very, very important that the Brahmins lead the society, as Prabhupada notes in the purport, and the Kshatriyas should follow. The problem in Kali Yuga is we don't have qualified Brahmins and we don't have qualified Kshatriyas. Some years ago in America, the American government, they were concerned that the Russian government was beginning to infiltrate into Southeast Asia, and they were taking over Vietnam, and they were worried that we were going to lose some of our power control in this way. So they made up a story that they had their boats out in that area, and they said that the Vietnamese, they attacked our boats off the coast of Vietnam, and it actually didn't happen. It was a lie. And then based on that, they said, so we have to go to war with these people. We have to go and fight with them. And then later on, when it came out that they were telling a lie, the thing wasn't really the truth, then the people in America lost so much faith in the government. Before that, they did some surveys, and they found 70 or 80% of the people had faith in the government. But then after this thing happened, it went way down. And then after that in America, Richard Nixon was caught doing some very bad things, spying on other politicians. And he was impeached as a president. And then people after that, if you ask people how many people had faith in the government, it went down to 20% or something. And today it's much less than that. And since the world today more or less follows America, we've seen a similar thing all over the world, and also in ISKCON we've seen too. Years ago when we joined, everybody had faith in the leaders. And in some ways, we look back, those were very good days. We were very happy, we were very simple in those days. But then there were some problems with the leaders. They made some mistakes. And then the massive devotees, a lot of them, have lost faith in the leaders, and they want to criticize them. But we should understand that this criticism is not a Brahminical activity. This is what's being pointed out here in this verse in purport today. It's not a Brahminical activity. It's not a Vaishnava activity. It's not a helpful activity. It's a violent activity. It simply causes problems to society, as is indicated here by Šringi. He wasn't giving a solution to the problem. There was a problem. Maharaj Pariksha did something wrong. It's not that he didn't commit a mistake. He certainly did. He picked up a dead snake and he put it on Samaka Rishi. That was offensive for a Kshatriya to do that. But it wasn't worth the curse that Šringi gave him. And because he became angry, he found fault with Maharaj Parikshit, and he blew out of proportion a small fault into a very big thing. Then Šringi was responsible for destroying that wonderful Krishna conscious culture that was going on at that time. So some people, if we speak like this, they'll become very disturbed. They'll say, no, we can't tolerate if someone is doing something wrong. We have to expose the rascals. We have to let everybody know about it to protect them. And there's some truth in that. If we simply stand by and don't do anything when some wrong thing is going on, then we're also culpable. In the Mahabharata, there's a story of one person who was running away. He was a thief running away from the king's men, and they were going to kill him. And he ran to the ashram of some sage, and he begged him, please give me shelter. And then the king's men came and they asked, have you seen that person? And he said, yes, he's right over there. And he told the truth. He got a sinful reaction for that sage, because of telling the truth. His sinful reaction was that person had taken shelter of him. He should have helped him. He should have protected him. He shouldn't have told the truth. He should have been something vague. So it's not that truth is important, but sometimes it's better not to speak about certain things. During the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, there were also sannyasis who had problems sometimes. It's not that ISKCON has a monopoly on that. They have a trademark and nobody else is allowed to, no other sannyasis are allowed to have problems. They also had problems, but you don't hear about it. They had a farm in West Bengal, and those sannyasis who had some problem, they'd be sent there and they'd do extra bhajan, they'd read extra, and they'd get themselves back together again, and they wouldn't tell anyone about it. What's the purpose of telling people about it? There's no help in doing that. If we broadcast and advertise the faults of someone else, in a subtle way, we're propagating a solution, isn't it? We're saying the solution is to tell everybody about the faults of this person. And if we don't do that, then there's going to be a greater problem. But that solution, in a subtle way, is also making another statement, that chanting Hare Krishna doesn't really work. But that's not the solution. The Krishna consciousness doesn't really work. But fault-finding is a solution in and of itself. But this fault-finding is not a solution. It's a great disqualification. As the Mahabharata states, it's a disqualification for a Brahman. And someone who does that, they're not a Brahman, they're living in hell. They're not situated in Brahman, they're situated in Naraka consciousness. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of a Vaishnava is that they're adoshadarshi. They don't see fault in others. A similar thing is described by Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita. This verse beginning with the words Krishneti na Krishneti yasya giritvam manasadriyeta. This verse in the commentaries from Bhaktivinoda and Srila Prabhupada describes what is a Kanishta Adhikari, what is a Madhyama Adhikari, what is an Uttama Adhikari. There's some misunderstanding sometimes. Sometimes devotees think that an Uttama Adhikari is a topmost devotee. He's not. An Uttam Bhagavat is a topmost devotee. The word Adhikar, it's like we sing the Tulsi Devi, Seva Adhikara Diye. We don't sing Seva Adhikoro Diye. Seva Adhikoro Diye means, please make me first. Adhikoro. But we sing Seva Adhikara Diye, Kora Nijadasi. That please give me the Adhikar, the qualification to have this thing. So someone who's an Uttama Adhikari doesn't mean that he has that thing, doesn't mean that he is Krishna conscious, but he has the topmost qualification to get it. Just like if you have a large amount of money in your pocket, it doesn't mean that you have a Rolls-Royce car, but you have the qualification to purchase one because you have the money for it. That's adhikar. So the symptom of the Uttama Adhikari is nindari shunya hridam ipsita sangalabhya. This is a person, sangalabhya, we want to associate with. This is the person who's sangalabhya, who's going to be the basis of our sangha and our society, who's going to build on the society. Šringi is not behaving like this. Nindari shunya hridam. It means that our heart should be completely free from the propensity to criticize others. And that's the basis of our sangha. Someone who doesn't do that, they destroy the sangha. When, just before the battle of Kurukshetra, Vidura went to Dhritarashtra and he said, look, man, you've got to stop this now. This is very, very bad. You're allowing your son, Duryodhana, to criticize Yudhishthira. And this war is going to come and you're going to lose all your sons. The whole world may be destroyed because of this. And he told him, Akrosha parivara byam vihimsita buddha buddhan vakta papamapada take shamamanu vimuchite. He said, don't be an ignorant person. Ignorant people, they try to hurt someone else by criticizing them. But by doing so, they're such a fool, the critic gets the karma of the person he's criticizing. And the person that he's criticizing becomes free from that karma by forgiving him. Later on, in 2 chapters later, Atri Muni tells the Sabjas, Akrushamano nakroshan manyorilavi tikshataha akroshtaram nidahati sukritam cha shivindati. A person, if someone's criticizing you, don't criticize them back. Because the pain that you feel by that critic, that pain that you're feeling patiently takes away all the good karma of the person who's criticizing you, and it comes to you. If you tolerate and if you forgive that critic. This is the nature of a Brahman. A Brahman is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as someone who's able to forgive others. That's the nature of a Brahman. Jamadagni, he tells Parshuram, Vayami brahmanastata shama yarhanatam gataha yaya lokaguru devaha paramishyam agat padam. He said, my dear son, we're Brahmins. And we become worshipable by the people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It's because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the Supreme Guru of this universe, has achieved his post. If you're thinking about your career in ISKCON, if you want to get the best post, well, the best one is to become Lord Brahma. So we should become very, very forgiving. This is the quality of a Brahman. And he tells him, Kshamamaya rochate lakshmir brahmi sodi yata prabha kshaminam asu bhagavams tushite hare ishvaraha. The duty of a Brahman is to be forgiving. And he says this forgiveness, brahmi sodi yata prabha, is illuminating like the sun. He says, Shamanam asu bhagavams tushite hare ishvaraha. Lord Hari is pleased with those who are forgiving. Krishna's pleased with that. This is the qualification of a devotee, that he forgives other people. And if the leaders of society behave like Šringi, and they look very sophisticated, and his friends clapped his hands, yeah, man, you really showed that Kshatriya. You really cursed him really good. Rascal Kshatriyas. Everybody always complains about the leaders. These rascal leaders, you really showed them good. And Šringi's criticizing him. But it hurts society. It doesn't help society. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, The story is there of what's his name, Maharaj Nriga. Very interesting story. Nriga was a great king. He was such a pious person. Every day he was giving hundreds and thousands, millions of cows away in charity to the Brahmins, and giving so much wealth to them. This pastime takes part in Prabhas Kshetra, when Krishna was visiting Prabhas with some of his children and grandchildren. It's significant that it took place there because each dham has a particular quality. Vrindavan dham is Madhurjamaya dham. Navadvip dham is Adorjamaya dham, a place of munificence. And Vrindavan dham is a place of sweetness. Vaikuntha is Aishvarjamaya dham. It's a place of opulence. Each particular dham has a particular quality. What is the quality of Prabhas Kshetra? That's the place where the Yadu dynasty left this world by fighting amongst themselves. That's the lesson that we learn there, not to fight amongst the devotees. And it was there in that place that Krishna enacted this pastime of Maharaj Nriga. His boys one day were walking around in the forest and they found a well. And at the bottom of the well they found this huge lizard. They tried to get the lizard out of the well, but they couldn't. So very excited like boys are, they went back and they told their father, "Hey, Pita, there's this giant lizard in the well and we couldn't get him out. Come and see." So Krishna went to see that lizard. He reached down in that well, and as soon as he touched the lizard immediately regained his former form, which is that of King Nriga. And Maharaj Nriga, then he began to explain to them what had happened to him. He was so pious. He'd done so many pious acts. He was a very, very good king. But one day, he gave away some cows to a Brahmin. And one of those cows wandered back to his Goshala. And Maharaj Nriga didn't know it. And then later in the day, another Brahmin came, and again Maharaj Nriga gave some cows away. And the same cow that he'd previously given away to the first Brahmin was given away a second time. And when the first Brahmin saw that this other Brahmin had his cow, he became angry. "Hey, what are you doing? That cow belongs to me." The second Brahmin said, "No, it doesn't. It belongs to me. The king gave it to me." "No, he didn't. He gave it to me first." And they began quarreling. They came to see Maharaj Nriga. "What's going on? You gave me this cow, then you gave him this cow." And Maharaj Nriga didn't even know what was going on. He couldn't understand. He just saw, "Oh, I committed some offense." So in a very proper way, Maharaj Nriga said, "Look, please forgive me. I don't know what I did. I don't know how this thing happened. But I'll give each of you 1,000,000 cows, if you please forgive me." And those Brahmins then, they didn't act like proper Brahmins. Because the quality of a Brahmin is to be forgiving, especially over such a small thing. You lose one cow, he's going to give you 1,000,000 cows in exchange. It's not bad. But they were angry, which is not the quality of a Brahmin. Šringi's quality is not the quality of a saintly person. And so those Brahmins, they said, "No, we won't forgive you." And later, Maharaj Nriga left his body. And he was brought before Yamaraj. And Yamaraj asked Chitragupta, the scribe who writes down everybody's faults. So what did he do? And Chitragupta said, "Wow, he's got a pretty good record. He gave away so many millions of cows. He did so much good things. His pious credits are practically limitless. It's like trying to count the raindrops coming from this cloud." Did he do anything bad? Yeah, one thing is there. This thing with the cow he gave to one Brahmin, and later he mistakenly gave it to another Brahmin. So then Yamaraj told Maharaj Nriga, "You've been very, very good king. Would you like to accept your pious results first or your impious results?" So a wise person will take the impious result first. Let me suffer my reactions. So he did that, and he became a lizard because of that thing. Now a question comes, how is it that he had darshan of Krishna? Did he have darshan of Krishna just because of his pious deeds? Do we accept that? That if someone does a lot of pious deeds, they give away a lot of charity, they help old ladies across the street, they feed needy people, they give blankets to people who don't have proper clothes. Is they going to be able to see Krishna just by doing that? No. Krishna says, Bhakti mama bhajanati, yavanyaschasmi tattataha. I'm only known by bhakti. He says, sarva dharmam pritchata. You give up all this other dharma of giving in charity, doing this thing and that thing. You can't know me by that. So then how is it that Maharaj Nriga had darshan of the Lord? We were reading this pastime recently in the Bhagavatam, and this question was coming to my mind. And then I finished reading the chapter. The chapter more or less concludes with a statement by Krishna to his followers, his children and other followers who were there. And I read this statement and I thought, what does this mean? What context does this have? Krishna told them, Vipram kritagasammapi naiva dhruyattamamakaha gnantam bahu shapantam va namaskuruta nityasaha. My dear followers, never treat a learned Brahmin harshly, even if he's sinned. Even if he attacks you physically or repeatedly curses you, always continue to offer him obeisances. He's speaking all about Nriga, and then all of a sudden he speaks this thing. What is the meaning of this? We were contemplating this, and we realized that he's speaking about Maharaj Nriga. That this is Maharaj Nriga's quality, his good quality. Even though those Brahmins were wrong, they should have been tolerant. They should have been forgiving. It wasn't a big deal. One cow, come on. He was going to give them 1,000,000 cows in exchange. Their duty was to be forgiving, but they weren't. And basically they cursed him. So Krishna says that you should never treat such a learned Brahmin harshly, even if he sins. Those Brahmins committed a mistake. And even if they attack you physically or repeatedly curse you, you should always continue to offer them obeisances. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, says a very amazing thing. He says that the word mamaka, by saying the word mamaka, which means my followers, Krishna is instructing. He's saying that I'm instructing everyone, anyone who's my devotee, not just you. Otherwise, persons should not think themselves as my followers. All my devotees, anyone who wants to be my devotee, they shouldn't criticize others. They shouldn't take fault with someone, even if that person committed fault. Otherwise, they shouldn't think of themselves as my follower. So we take shelter of Krishna's name. Prabhupada told the GBC, this chanting should go on. Instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and no solutions, there should be chanting. We don't have faith in all these resolutions, dissolutions, and revolutions. All these people, the revolutions, they're going to solve the problem through some expose, through some criticism. We don't have faith in that. I tried all that before. When I was a young boy, just after high school, I went to Washington, D.C. I hitchhiked all the way from California to Washington, D.C. It took us a week to get there. And we took part in a political rally to protest against the rascal government. And they came, and they tear gassed us, and they beat us with sticks. It didn't do any good. And I've seen all those so-called solutions. They don't solve the problems. Rather, pashit pakaviparyatsam. They simply cause more problems. Whenever you try to take shelter of a material solution to solve a problem, it's only going to cause more problems. Bhayam dvitiya abhinivesata. The Bhagavatam also states that if you have some fear, it's because you're not seeing Krishna. There's no problems in this world. Krishna is there for everyone. Therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he describes that this chanting is the best solution to all problems. He says that this world has no need of a reformer. He says so many people, they're trying to reform others in this world. But the real reform takes place by the chanting of Hare Krishna. And these other people who are trying to change the world in this way, they're simply causing more problems. And he said the symptom is someone, when they're really listening to the holy name, and the first thing is, it clears up their misconception that the world needs any reform. And they simply want to be a servant of Krishna. There's no problem. All these people, everything is going just fine. But still, we go out for book distribution, we go out for preaching because Prabhupada told us to do that. And he told us that these people are suffering, and we should try to help them. We should try to make some change. But whether it happens or not, it's not us who are doing it. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. It's Krishna who's doing it. Krishna's in control of everything. I'm not the doer. I can't give this person Krishna consciousness. That takes place by Krishna's desire. So I have to give up the bad things in my heart which are obstructing me from being a servant of Krishna, and make myself pure so I can be Krishna's instrument. And this fault finding is not my right. Krishna says in the Gita twice, Shreyansa dharma viguna paradharma sanustitat. Do your duty, not someone else's duty. Whose duty is it to find fault with others? It's Krishna's duty. It's the duty of Yamaraj. It's the duty of Guru. So this is a kind of Mayavad philosophy. If you want to be Krishna, that's Mayavad. If you want to be Guru, that's also Mayavad. So if you want to be the critic and the judge of other people, that's a kind of Mayavad. And you're not doing your duty. Unless you're a Guru, unless you have some right, some instruction to find fault with others. We were speaking about this the other day. That's the responsibility of Guru. It's the responsibility of the teacher. That's the responsibility of the parent, the leaders in society. They have to do that. But if we don't have that instruction, then why should we want to foolishly take that on our head? We should be peaceful and not agitate the society. If people see all the devotees, he was chanting Hare Krishna, he was thinking that chanting is the whole solution for everything. But now he's focusing on something else. He's criticizing people. And he thinks that by this criticism he's going to solve problems. So this is going to disturb society because you're not following Shastra. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidimbina Akantakir Harir Bhakti Utpatayaiva Kalpate. The Padma Purana states that someone who doesn't follow Shastra, then Utpatayaiva Kalpate, they create a disturbance. So if you're preaching, if you're criticizing people, and you don't have the right to do that, you're creating a disturbance. You'll create a disturbance in the society, and you'll create a disturbance in your own spiritual life. And you'll suffer. The Narada Purana says, Papinam papagananam yakaroti naradamaha astitve tulya papishan nityatve dvigunam bharet. A fault finder, literally someone who's papagananam, we spoke about this the other day, someone who's counting the faults of some other person. He's Naradam and the lowest of mankind. If the sins are true, if the faults are true that he criticizes the other person for, then he'll share equally the karmic reaction with that person by finding their faults. And if they're not true, then they'll get double the sin that they ascribe to the other person. Sridhar Swami in his commentary on the Bhagavatam, he says, what is ninda? What is sadhu ninda? Satam ninda namna paramam aparadam vitanute. This offense, which the Padma Purana says is paramam aparadam, the topmost offense. Sridhar Swami says ninda means nindanam dosha kirtanam. This is his definition. Nindanam dosha kirtanam. Ninda means to do kirtan, to speak about someone's dosha, someone's fault. Even they have that fault. You're criticizing, you're speaking about them is ninda. And this is what Šringi is doing. He shouldn't have done this. He should have acted like a brahman. He should have been forgiving of Maharaj Parikshit. And by finding fault with Maharaj Parikshit, by criticizing him in public, by cursing him, he brought about the degradation of society. And devotees can also do this same thing. It's going on today. Therefore, Aldous Huxley, a famous mundane philosopher, he wrote a very wise thing once, which supports all these statements. The effects which follow the constant and intense concentration upon evil are always disastrous. Substantiated by all these verses we've been reading. Those who crusade not for God and themselves, but against the demons and others, never succeed in making the world better. No man can concentrate his attention on evil or even the idea of evil and remain unaffected. To be more against the demon than for godliness is exceedingly dangerous. Every crusader is apt to go mad. He's haunted by the wickedness which he attributes to his enemies. It becomes a sort of part of him. Well, Aldous Huxley was absolutely 100% correct. The Mahabharata and the Naradiya Purana and the Bhagavatam state that it does become a part of him. Because when you become a crusader like that and you see all these faults, when you become a self-appointed reformer, reformers are there. We have a right to reform. We want to try to reform the society, but we have a right because we've been appointed by Prabhupada and by our Guru to do that. But I haven't been appointed the reformer of other devotees. I haven't been appointed to be their critic, to be their fault finder. We have some adhikar for that. I have some adhikar for that. If we're going to travel and preach, then if we see something wrong going on, we have a responsibility to say something about it. But only within the sphere of our influence. Ashradadane vimukhi pashinvati is chopadesha shivanama paradha. If someone's not going to listen to me, then don't waste my time with it. Parasvabhava karmani cha naprasam sen nagarayet vishram ekamakam pashyam prakritya purushena cha. The 11th canto of the Bhagavatam states, Krishna says to Uddhava, one should neither praise nor criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. Rather, one should see this world as simply the combination of material nature and the enjoying souls, all based on the one absolute truth. So, we should tolerate. It's described again in the Shanti Parva Mahabharata in a conversation between Yudhishthira and Bhishmadev. Arushyan krusyamanasya sukritam nama vindati duskritam chatmano marsi rushyat yeva pamarshtivai. One who remains tolerant and doesn't become angry. Even though someone abuses him, he gets the good qualities of that abuser. Indeed, his own sins are transferred to that angry person. So this is the qualification of a Brahman. This is the qualification of a Vaishnava. This is the qualification of a saintly person. Don't see fault in others. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we read this verse the other day. What is it? Two things. Anandika hoeje, Satya Krishna boli, Satya Satya Munitari Udari Baheli. If you just do these two things, don't criticize others and chant the holy name. That's my qualification. That's what I have the right to do. That's what I've been instructed to do. If I do that, it will help the society and it'll help myself. And that doesn't mean that we should be fools. That doesn't mean if we see someone doing some wrong thing, we should tolerate it. Once, in the New York temple, the local GBC man, he had some problems. He married a non-devotee girl, a very wealthy girl from a prestigious family, and she was having some influence on him. And so he told the devotees, he ordered them to offer eggs to Sri Sri Radha Govinda, the deities there in the temple. And the devotees didn't know what to do. He was their authority. So some of them did that. They offered the eggs to the deities. And some of the devotees were very disturbed and they left the temple. Srila Prabhupada later came to New York, and those devotees who had left came back. And Prabhupada chastised all of them. He chastised that GBC devotee for doing that thing. And he kept him as a GBC, by the way. And Prabhupada chastised the devotees who left. He said, you're not solving the problem by leaving like this. And he chastised especially the devotees who followed the instruction. Why, you have no brain? Why you did something like this? Just because he told you this thing? So we should have some intelligence. But we can only act according to our situation. The residents of Braj were powerless to fight against Putana. Only one person could recognize Putana in all of Braj for what she was. Everyone else thought she was a devotee. And that one person who could recognize Putana was a little baby. Krishna. Krishna can recognize the demons. Krishna will solve the problem. Sometimes devotees, they say, oh, in ISKCON we've had this fall down guru and that fall down guru, we've had this problem and this cheater and that cheater, and we have to do something. And I say, well, you can do something if you want. I also want to do something. I want to chant Hare Krishna. I want to speak about Krishna Katha, and I don't want to compromise. And if someone's trying to force me to do some nonsense thing, I'll complain about it to the leaders, or I'll leave that place and I'll go somewhere else because ISKCON's such a big society. But I don't see it as a solution. This other thing, I see the chanting of Hare Krishna as the only solution for all the problems. And if we get absorbed in that, then we're part of the ultimate solution. Otherwise, we're part of the problem. We're trying to take some position that we don't have for ourselves. We should push on the chanting of Hare Krishna as the only solution for everything. In this regard, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary in the 4th canto, chapter 4, text 12, he speaks about 4 types of saintly persons and 4 types of wicked persons. Vishwanath. He says there's the Mahat, the Mahatara, the Mahatamam, and the Atya Mahatam. 4 types of saintly persons. And then wicked persons, he says, there's the Asadu, the Asadutara, the Asaduttam, and the Atya Sadutam. 4 types of saintly persons and 4 types of unsaintly persons. It's kind of like a thermometer, which we can see the temperature, what it's like outside. We can look at these 4 different types of saintly persons and unsaintly persons, and we can see which category do I fit in, and we can see what is our temperature. So the Mahat, the symptom of a Mahat, he says, is that he sees some good in everyone, but he also sees some bad. He's not a fool. He sees some good and he sees some bad in others. But if they see some bad in someone else, they consider that the faults that person has will eventually be transformed into good qualities by dint of chanting Hare Krishna, by doing some pious thing. So sometimes the Mahat, they may criticize someone, but they'll only do it if they feel like he's going to be benefited, because that's their motivation. Their motivation is they really want to help the other person. So if they see that this person will be benefited by my chastising them, by my pointing out their faults, they'll do it. And Vishwanath says it's bitter, just like neem juice tastes very bitter, but it may help your disease. It may help your disease go away. So the harsh words of that Mahat, who's also a sadhu, because the very word sadhu means someone who cuts. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says they cut with their harsh words. So the Mahat speaks the truth, but his motivation is to help someone else. They see some good qualities in everyone, and they may see some faults also. But the Mahat never rejects or condemns a faulty person. He's only thinking how that person will be benefited. Greater than the Mahat is the Mahattara. The Mahattara also sees good and bad, but they focus on the good, and they praise the good. See a materialistic businessman. The Mahattara will think, okay, he's a Vishai. He's a materialistic person. He's not coming to the temple, but only maybe once a week or once a month or whatever, not very often. He's a materialistic person just making money, but he has a good quality. I've seen sometimes he invites the devotees to his house, and he feeds them. He's a very generous person. So he'll see that good quality, and he'll emphasize that good quality. Sometimes great souls, for preaching, they may take the role of a Mahat, like a Majjhima Adhikari. And they see some good and they see some bad and they chastise. But actually they may be a very elevated person. Greater than the Mahattara is the Mahattama. The Mahattama, he sees only good. And whatever good things he sees in other people, he magnifies it. He's the original book distributor. This is the quality of an expert preacher. They don't go and tell people, just like I wanted to get rid of those police who were telling the story yesterday. And I knew the way to get rid of them is to start you don't do illicit sex, do you, sir? Oh, that's very bad. And you start criticizing him and preaching like a fanatic. Then they don't want anything to do with you. They'll drop you like a hot potato right away. But conversely, the Mahatma, he just sees good in other people. And he praises that. He's the best preacher in that way. He's not acting as a guru. Guru may also chastise. But the Mahatma, whatever good qualities he sees in someone, he praises. He doesn't see even the slightest fault. And Vishwanath gives a very brilliant example. He says that the Mahatma, if someone comes and steals his cloth, they have a knife and they come and they take his cloth away from him, the Mahatma will think, oh, he's a good person. He stole my cloth because obviously he's cold and he needs something. But I can see that he's a good person because he had a knife. He had a weapon with him and he didn't attack me. So he must be a kind person. So in that way, he sees some good quality even in a rascal. Just like Jesus said. If someone hits you and you turn the cheek and allow them to hit you again. This is a Mahatma. But the Atya Mahatma, the best person, he sees good even when there's no good. Even when there's no good in someone, he'll see good. And their attitude is, there's no bad people. Everyone is good. This is the Uttama Adhikari. As we said, the Uttam Bhagavat. The Uttam Bhagavat sometimes comes down and acts like a Madhyam Bhagavat, acts on a lower platform. But we shouldn't think that he's on that lower platform. He's on a higher platform. But for preaching for the sake of pleasing the Lord, Guru, he may be acting as some other thing. So this is his 4 saints. There's also 4 wicked people. The Asadhu. The Asadhu sees some good in people, but he also sees bad. And if he sees some good in someone, then he presumes, he just takes it for granted that, okay, he's chanting Hare Krishna a little bit, but just see. He was taking drugs before. He was doing this thing and that thing. He's not going to last. He presumes that whatever good quality was there in someone, it'll eventually go away. If he sees someone working to help other people, if he sees someone selling books, preaching, doing something, he says, yes, okay, that's a good thing they're doing, but you just watch and see. As soon as they get a chance, they're going to fall down with some girl that they meet on Sankirtan. As soon as they get a chance, they're going to steal someone's money. They're going to exploit someone. They haven't even done that yet. But the Asadhu, he sees that fault even where it's not. And then worse than the Asadhu is the Asadutra. He's a very wicked person. He only sees fault. He doesn't see any good in anyone. Even he sees some sannyasi who's traveling, who's given up materialistic life, who's taken a vow, I'll never be with a woman. I just want to live my life for the benefit of others, to preach and to help other people. And he'll see, look, he's supposed to be a sannyasi. Did you see how much he's eating? Eating a huge plate of rice and so much ghee. Very bad, very, very bad person. He's not a bona fide sadhu. He's very lusty. He's fallen. He's a very wicked person. But more wicked than him is the asadutam. He's the most wicked person. He takes a small fault in someone and magnifies it. He doesn't see any good qualities in anyone at all. If he sees a sannyasi, he'll criticize that sannyasi. Just see, this sannyasi previously, he went to the forest and he gave up society, he gave up everything, but now he left the forest and he's staying in the house of a rich man. His real purpose in staying there is he wants the money of that person. He doesn't know that. He has no reason to think that. He's imagining that thing. And he's finding fault where there is no fault and criticizing, making a big thing out of the smallest little thing. That sannyasi may be staying with that wealthy man to help him. Srila Prabhupada stayed in the house of so many Vishayis. If he hadn't done that, where would we be today? But the crest jewel of all wicked persons is the Atyasadutam. He sees fault in other people even when there's no faults. And his attitude is, in this world, in this society, no one is good. Everyone is evil. He has 20/20 vision. He only sees bad everywhere he goes. And just like if you're walking on the street and you find $100 bill, $100 USD, you get to keep it. Right? So also, if you see bad in everyone else, you get to keep it. Once there was one man who was living in a village, and at some point in his life he decided, why am I living in this materialistic way? I should take the life of bhajan. So he became a Hare Krishna devotee, and he built a small hut outside the village in the country, in the forest, and he stayed there and began chanting. Well, there was one fellow in the city who he used to always quarrel with, who didn't like him. And when this other fellow found out that his former enemy, had become a so-called sadhu, he became very critical. And he went to see him, and he started making fun of him. Oh, now you're a big sadhu, huh? Trying to cheat everyone, sitting here chanting Hare Krishna, but your real purpose is you want to get some young girl. I know you, you rascal. And was saying all terrible things to him. But that devotee who was sitting there didn't react. He just sat there, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He just chanted. And that man came again the next day and again started criticizing him, and again the person didn't say anything. So he spit on him. And again that devotee didn't do anything. The next day he came, he passed urine on him. While I was sitting there chanting, you think you have it hard sometimes? Book distribution, we've never had anyone pass urine on us. That's really bad. And that devotee didn't do anything. And then the man said, look, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you a man or you a woman? Huh? I'm calling you all the most filthy names in the world. I'm spitting on you. I'm passing urine on you, and you're not doing anything. Huh? And then finally that devotee spoke up. He said, I have a question for you. Yes, what is it? He said, if you take someone and give them a gift, and the person doesn't accept the gift, what happens to the gift? That critical man, he said, well, simple, you get to keep it. You keep it. And I said, yes. So you're saying all these things, and I don't accept them. So you can keep it. So that's the nature of the sadhu. The sadhu tolerates. And Maharaj Parikshit, he tolerated. Šringi was wrong. And Šringi's activity, because he was a brahman, he's supposed to be a spiritual leader in society, he degraded the whole society by overemphasizing, by exaggerating a small fault of Maharaj Parikshit and cursing him for it. He brought about destruction of the society. By his wrong act, Kali, the personified quarrel, entered into the world and caused so many troubles. So, as we said, Vaishnavas are automatically Brahmins. And as devotees, if we also take shelter of this propensity for fault-finding, if we think this is going to solve the problem, we're an illusion. It's not going to solve the problem. You're influenced by Kali. And you become a Kali Chela, a devotee of Kali. You think you're going to solve the problem, but in actuality, your so-called solution is a greater problem. There's only one solution. This chanting should go on. Instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and no solutions, there should be chanting. This is the Hare Krishna movement, and this is our message. It'll solve everyone's problem. Not that the expose and writing something on the internet and criticizing someone is going to solve the problem. It won't. Srila Prabhupada was very disturbed when one of his secretaries, one of his GBC men, stole a large amount of money, fell down from sannyas and ran away with a girl. That was a disturbing thing, but he became really upset when the devotees advertised it. And they started telling everyone about it in the society. Prabhupada said, why have you done this? Now he won't be able to come back. So we all have some faults. Jesus Christ, a famous statement is there, that he is without sin. Cast the first stone. So who amongst us has no faults? If we have no fault, we have a right to find fault with others. That's guru. Or if we have some instruction. My Guru Maharaj oftentimes he would say that once the sieve, you know what a sieve is? Sieve is that thing that you like a wire mesh
Oh, yeah.
You strain some rice through it. Right? Once the sieve was criticizing the needle. The sieve was laughing at the needle. Look, you have a hole in you. the needle said, Hari Baba, you have so many holes. So we're like that sieve. What is the point of that? If we can give that thing up, let it off our shoulders, trying to solve all the problems of the world through our fault finding, then we can become so much more peaceful and so much more happy. But rather, if we take the weight of the whole world on our shoulders and try to solve everyone's problems, you'll become so heavy you won't be able to dance in kirtan. Your feet won't be able to leave the ground. But if we're always seeing the good qualities in other people, then we'll always be able to dance. And we'll be very, very happy. And we'll be able to get this whole world to dance. This is the Hare Krishna movement. We'll stop there. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi. Questions, comments, corrections, fault finding?
I just want to commend. I think it's very wonderful description. I can see that it's so true. I just watch my mind and I watch my whole attitude when I'm saying that whole being. You see it's magnified, and you see, I just recognize all the bad qualities when it's not working. And I recognize that actually when it is working, that then Krishna, he gives me the inspiration. I let him inspire me to say the right things. And I just want to give an example of that, because usually when I meet a worker, someone in a suit like that, I try to figure out, what to say to people when you meet them, what's the best way of approaching a person of a certain, and you try to, find them. So, usually when I see, like a worker, I say, yeah, I can see you're this or that, and then I take it from there. But yesterday, Krishna, he gave me the inspiration, and I know it came from him because it was clear as the sun. I mean, you know that when you have that experience that something just appears out of nowhere in your head, and suddenly it's clear to you. Of course, this is what you say to such a person. And I said to him, I can see you're in such and such a clothes, but you're not a worker. You're a spirit soul. And immediately, this man, he lit up. And then I asked him, you're not a worker. This is just something you do for money. What do you actually like to do? And then it was quite amazing because he mentioned two things. I like to go in the forest, and I like philosophy. So he kind of opened the door, So we had a long talk, Of course, he bought some books, and he was so inspired. And and another thing also in connection with what you said, that just shows how true it is, that I spoke with him. He liked philosophy. He liked to talk philosophy. So I let him talk philosophy, and he was speaking, and he was showing me his bruise pimples all over him because he was becoming so inspired, and it was all, Mayavad philosophy. But I let him talk, and then just at the end, I said, Bhagavad Gita says, the soul is eternal, that you have a relationship with God, and you just listen to that. Because I had been listening just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had been listening to, for 7 days, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And yes, just like that. And then I was listening to that, and then I just, at the end, he could accept it all. And that's because the principles of not finding fault and just appreciating what he was saying, kind of, appearing as if I was appreciating that, and then that, instruction from Bhagavad Gita, it could enter his heart, in a, he could accept that, because, and it was Yeah, it was very beautiful, and I could see that this was coming, the way for this was clear, from the super soul was, Paramatma was giving the intelligence for this, because, of course there's something, clear, some, when you, when you purify your mind and your intelligence by Bhagavatam, then Krishna, when there's actually some purity and not all these faults in the heart, then Krishna, he can actually appear on the scene and guide you further along the way. So I could see, and it's the same principles as you were explaining here. I see that when it doesn't work on Sankirtan, that's when I just find when the mind is just finding fault in all the activities, finding fault in people, finding fault in me, finding fault, and that's when and I listen to the mind. That's when all the problems come. So this was so wonderful. I'm so happy that we recorded.
I think if we meditate on it, there's a principle of loving relationships. First of all, everybody wants love. Everybody wants, and what is the essence of love? Love means being accepted. Love means finding someone who's going to love me in spite of myself, love me in spite of my faults. That's the principle of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the essential quality of love. And it's the essential quality of relationships. If we can't forgive each other, then there's no relationship. If we can meet someone on the street and find some good quality in them and overlook their bad qualities and love them in spite of that, it blows their mind. There's a story we heard recently that Jayananda Prabhu, he'd passed away, and some devotee was there in New York and distributing books or something, and some bum came up to him. Some person who was living on the street, filthy, dirty, the low-class kind of person. And he came up and said, "Hey, you're Hare Krishna?" "Yeah." "Do you know Johnny Ananda?" Jayananda Prabhu. And the devotee said, "Yeah." He said, "How's he doing?" He said, "Well, he just passed away." And that bum on the street started crying. And he said, "He was the only person I ever met who loved me in spite of me and saw good qualities in me. He's the only person." And he cried. It just melted his heart. And that's the quality of a preacher. If we can love people and see some good quality in them, and overlook their faults. Everybody's looking for that person who will do that, will overlook my faults and love me in spite of that. And if we can do that, it's like you're saying, it just melts them. Wow, you're the best person I ever met, man. I love you.
Yeah, it becomes a very sweet exchange, because when you're like that, they also become like that. When you exhibit those qualities, then they also immediately start to appreciate everything you do, and they don't find any fault in you, even though you ask for money, or like you may do it in a little awkward way or something. Yeah, it's okay, because you've already kind of exhibit something good, and then they just reflect on that, and it's just so natural.
And when you get into a role like that, all of a sudden the whole day just goes, and everybody's just wonderful. Or if you're in the opposite, if you find the fault, every day is just terrible. I've experienced sometimes in Vrindavan or in the Dham, in my japa, a similar thing. Even on a microcosmic level, I'm not going out to see people, but I'm just chanting. And if I'm envious, if I'm critical, if I'm just seeing bad things and I'm not focused on the holy name, then all of a sudden, all day long, I just meet nasty people, angry people that come up to me, this thing. And Hare Krishna, have a good day.
Thank you for preparing Prashad.
It's just an amazing principle. If you're focused on fault, then you'll just have a lousy day all day. You'll meet terrible people. And on the other hand, if you have some love for people, and beginning with the holy name, we pay attention to the holy name, then all of a sudden you just meet the most wonderful people all day long. You should just send them to you, and you're so happy.
and everyone can have a good day, and everyone can have a bad day. I mean, so sometimes I wonder why all these good people coming. Where are they coming from? Yesterday they were not here. I was out on the street yesterday, and I just met critical, angry people. And today I'm here, and I'm just amazingly, I'm just stopping all the nice people who wants to, who has money in their pocket and wants to give a donation. What's happening? What's happening? And of course, Krishna, he inspires. Yeah, he inspires you to approach the right person. And everyone can have a bad day, so often I see people, because that's what I try to do myself when people they're nasty to me, and I try to be positive because I see, if I, exactly as you say, that if you focus on the bad thing they do, well then it becomes a part of you, as Aldous Huxley was saying. So then I just try to think, and I have the consciousness to think it, that people, they can have I can have a bad day, so it's okay. So next time, maybe they have a good day, and then I speak with them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I found over the years in my dealings with people, both in Sankirtan and dealings, that when someone becomes angry and attacks me, or speaks some harsh words or something, rather than retaliate in an angry way, or rather than feel, why are they doing this to me? I didn't do anything. I'm an innocent person. If instead I'm forgiving to them and I'm tolerant, they're finished.
Yeah.
They're completely finished. You've got, sooner or later, it may take some time, but that person is defeated. And if you want to sell them a book, they're going to take whatever, because they just can't believe. You came and they did some terrible thing to you, and you just tolerated that. And not only tolerated, but tolerated with some love and forgiveness.
I have an example. It was an American I met on the yoga school, and I came up to him and I said, Hare Krishna, or I didn't say Hare Krishna, but I said, Karma Yoga. And then immediately he said, so who do you think you are? You come here. I hate that. Go around and tell people what they have to think. And then, again, I did the right thing for a change. Then I said, yes, you're right. Yeah, thank you. And immediately, you said it. Sometimes it takes some time. Immediately, he changed. He said, oh no, I didn't mean to. Oh, I'm sorry. No, thank you. So it immediately became such a nice exchange. Yeah, and it was amazing. He changed right on the spot, from being critical. And of course, I could have focused on, he's critical because of this, he has that, this or that, and this and that. But it's amazing, that there's the principles that govern.
And this is a Shastra principle.
Yeah.
This is what's given again and again. It's an important thing. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Sindhu Devi Cha, Pitanam Bhavani, Vaishnavi.